this isn't me knocking Mason Graham by putting him at 4. I don't think it's harsh to say he played on an elite defense amongst a group of guys that all of which should be drafted either this past year were drafted in the top 150 or the next upcoming year are going to get drafted in the top 150 picks at linebacker, at corner, and at defensive line. His impact is noticeable on a snap-to-snap basis. Very quick-footed. He's a really good pass rusher, super wide and low to the ground, and he's impossible to move off the line of scrimmage. I just didn't get that same snap-to-snap disruption that I saw from Deion Walker and that I saw from James Pierce Jr. Like, those guys have to do everything. Nick Scourton had to do everything. He was the premier player by a long shot. I really like Mason Graham, and I think he is going to get drafted very highly in this upcoming year. But we have to just at least, I hate to do it, I have to give him a little bit of a knock because of the group that he is playing.
All right, I can't take it anymore. You can't do that.
Why can't I do that?
Because, Joe, there have been so many great players that have played with other great players.
Wait,
it doesn't diminish.
You're misunderstanding what I'm doing here, though. I'm not sitting here saying, oh, I got to bump him because the rest of the defensive line is so good. That's not what I'm saying, though. I'm saying that when I watched him, I don't see the same massive disruption that requires a lot of extra attention that the other guys get. What did you say? I didn't hear. You got cut off.
I mean, there were a lot of times where they would bring outside pressure, okay, from a slot or whatever, which technically from an O lineman standpoint makes him what we would call an interior, okay? He's going to get double teamed, okay?
Like, he was get double teamed. He does a great job of handling double teams, but like,
okay. So you mean to tell me that a guy you talk about there's not disruption? Joey had 7.5 tackles for loss.
I didn't say that he's not disruptive. I'm saying that the other guys are. When I put on the film, I see a lot
an edge rusher is going to be more disruptive than an interior guy. The interior guys are going to have a tougher time getting after the quarterback and stopping the running game. Joe, I'm going to be honest with you. He is the best interior defensive lineman in the country. It's not remote. It's not close.
No, that is not true. Him and Deion Walker are much closer than you're willing to admit.
Deion Walker does not have the motor that Mason Graham does. I've seen multiple
He's not
times.
350 pounds.
Joe, I don't care. Like, Deion Walker didn't lose weight. You can't take Joe. What was the biggest thing on Jordan Davis?
What was the biggest motor and his weight? I think that Deion Walker going into this year was better on tape for me than Jordan Davis was going into this year, going into his last year.
Say that again.
Deion Walker going into this season was much more impressive on tape than Jordan Davis was going into his last season. No, what are you shaking your head at me?
Joe, Jordan Davis would get double and triple teamed and just absolutely murk.
So does Deion Walker.
Not like that. I saw the film that you broke down. You know good and damn well that Jordan Davis was more of an impact than anybody when he was on it. Joe, you had him running down.
All he used to do was bull rush.
I don't give two flying Joe, I don't give a shit if he packed him a sandwich, he ate a sandwich while he's rushing, picked up the telephone from under the goalpost like his name was Joe Horn, called his grandmammy and said, "Hey, grandmammy, what you doing?" And then got to the quarterback. I don't care what his moves are.
Okay.
I don't care. We're talking about disruption. Mason Graham and 7.5 tackles for loss and the disruption that he had not only in the regular season, Joe, he was honestly, and you know this, probably the most disruptive player in the playoff.
I would argue it was more Junior Colson, but he still had Mason Graham still had a very good playoff. I'm a Mason Graham fan. Just God forbid, I don't want to put a one tech who, you know what, you want to get like really nitpicky here, like we were doing James. He plays on the ground a lot. He's on the ground a ton on film. We want to get nitpicky. That's useless for me for a defensive tackle. That's why I'm knocking him. Well, that's too nitpicky. A defensive lineman who's on the ground.
Hold on. You mean a one tech was on the ground more than any other position? You're fucking right. He's going to be.
Jershon Newton was never on the ground as much as Mason Graham was in the film that I
Joe,
watched. Look,
you know
again,
who-
I love Mason. I love Mason Graham, but again, it stood out to me, and it was a negative for me that he needs to work on maintaining his balance. He can't get knocked. No, that was a bad voice crack. He can't get put on his knees as much as he does. I will give him credit.
Okay,
His motor is so
calm down.
high that I see all the time that when he's on the ground, he'll scratch and claw to get up and to still try and make plays. But I think that is noticeable enough for me to push him a little bit lower than some of these other guys. BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. Bet online, where the game starts.